stop scrolling, because the bread in your kitchen might not be as safe as you think. Some of the most popular brands in America contain more sugar than pastries, more salt than chips, and ingredients even food scientists question. One major brand was even forced to recall millions of pounds after a deadly contamination. I'm exposing the 15 worst bread brands in the country, backed by real data and real incidents. And at the end, I'll show you the 5 brands that are actually worth buying. And trust me, brand number 12 will absolutely shock you. Number 1. Wonder Bread Classic White. Wonder Bread is one of those products many of us grew up with, and maybe that's why its weaknesses often go unnoticed. The loaf feels familiar, harmless, even comforting. But when you look past the nostalgia and into the label, a different story appears. Wonder Bread is built on refined flour that has been stripped of its natural nutrients, then artificially fortified to replace what was lost. It creates softness, not substance. The sugar and sodium levels are surprisingly high for something considered a daily staple. And the long line of additives, compounds added to stabilize texture, color, and shelf life, suggests a product engineered more for convenience than nourishment. When food needs this much assistance to feel fresh, it's a quiet sign that something essential is missing. What you don't get is meaningful fiber, real whole grains, or the steady energy that comes from unprocessed ingredients. It's a loaf that fills the stomach but contributes little long-term value. Wonder Bread reminds us that familiarity shouldn't replace awareness. Sometimes the foods we trust the most are the ones we question the least, and those are the labels worth reading more closely. Number 2. Pepperidge Farm. Pepperidge Farm carries a warm, nostalgic image. Farmhouse kitchens, simple ingredients, and homemade flavor. But the reality inside the package is quite different. Their farmhouse white and sweet Hawaiian varieties contain far more sugar and sodium than most people realize. In fact, some slices carry more added sugar than certain pastries, hidden beneath the comforting language of bakery style and homemade. Sugar consistently appears near the top of the ingredient list, which tells its own story. These loaves rely heavily on sweetness and additives to create their soft texture and long shelf life. The sodium levels push into ranges that nutritionists flag as concerning for daily use, especially for families watching blood pressure or managing insulin sensitivity. And while the branding suggests warmth and simplicity, the ingredient panel tells a more complicated truth. Refined flour, additives, and flavor enhancers that drift far from the image of a handcrafted loaf. The sweet Hawaiian version intensifies this pattern, turning bread into something closer to a dessert disguised as a staple. Pepperidge Farm breads show how easily marketing can overshadow nutrition. They remind us that the appearance of tradition doesn't always reflect the quality inside, and that health begins with looking beyond the front label. Number 3. Sunbeam Texas Toast. Sunbeam Texas Toast is one of those breads that feels indulgent from the start. Thick, soft slices that seem perfect for comfort food. But that comfort comes with a cost most shoppers never consider. Each slice carries a surprisingly high sodium load, enough to push a simple sandwich toward the limits health experts warn against. And beneath the softness is a formula shaped heavily by industrial additives, preservatives, and moisture enhancers. The ingredient list reads less like a kitchen recipe and more like a manufacturing blueprint. Harvard researchers have cautioned that highly processed bread formulas, especially those designed for texture over nutrition, may create long-term health risks for children and adults alike. Even the quick molding some consumers report isn't a sign of purity. It often reflects a moisture-heavy recipe engineered for softness rather than stability. In a way, Sunbeam illustrates the quiet shift in packaged bread, where flavor and texture are manufactured rather than naturally earned. It's a reminder that thick and tasty don't necessarily mean wholesome, and that convenience food can sometimes drift far from the simple grain products our bodies actually benefit from. Number 4. Sara Lee. Sara Lee's breads are marketed as comforting classics, but their reputation has taken hits that go far beyond nutrition labels. Nutritionally, the breads already raise concerns: high sodium, added sugars, and a cocktail of preservatives designed to maintain a fluffy texture. But the deeper issue lies in a sanitation crisis that still lingers in the minds of many consumers. A major listeria contamination at a Sara Lee plant led to a nationwide recall of millions of pounds of product. The consequences were devastating: multiple deaths, miscarriages, and a public loss of trust that no brand can easily undo. Although the company addressed the incident and paid substantial fines, the event exposed just how fragile food safety can become when mass production meets insufficient oversight. When a product meant to nourish families becomes linked to tragedy, it forces us to look closer not only at ingredients, but at the systems behind them. Bread shouldn't carry risk, and yet Sara Lee's history serves as a sobering reminder that safety isn't guaranteed simply because a brand is familiar. Choosing bread becomes more than choosing flavor. It becomes a decision about who you trust to protect the health of your home. Number 5. Freihofer's Premium Italian. Freihofer's has a long history in the Northeast, which gives it an air of old-fashioned trust. Many families buy it because it feels familiar, almost traditional. But once you study the nutrition label, the picture shifts. Each slice carries a sodium level high enough that a simple sandwich can exceed what most health experts recommend for a single meal. And although the company avoids artificial colors and high fructose corn syrup, the loaf still relies heavily on preservatives to maintain its unnaturally long shelf life. Consumers often mention that Freihofer's bread can last weeks without showing signs of spoilage. That kind of longevity might seem convenient, but it also signals how far the product is from a truly natural formulation. Bread isn't meant to resist time like plastic. It's meant to be food, not something engineered to survive the month untouched. The flavor itself often leans salty, almost compensating for what the bread lacks nutritionally. Freihofer's reminds us that no artificial colors doesn't automatically mean clean or healthy. Sometimes the concerns lie deeper, in the quiet balance between salt, preservatives, and what has been stripped away. Number 6. Country Kitchen. Country Kitchen's hearty Canadian white presents itself as a hearty, energy-rich option, the kind of bread that sounds nourishing simply by name. But when you examine its ingredient list, the promise unravels. Instead of whole grains or simple staples, you find an unexpectedly long list of additives, stabilizers, conditioners, and preservatives that don't belong in something as humble as bread. Nutritionally, each slice is modest in calories, but noticeably lacks the depth you'd expect from anything marketed as hearty. The refined flour base offers quick energy with little staying power. The sodium content isn't extreme, yet combined with the additives, it forms a product that feels more crafted for shelf life than for health. Experts often point out that bread shouldn't need a complex formula to taste good. When the ingredient panel begins to resemble a chemistry assignment, it signals that the manufacturer is trying to recreate texture, softness, and longevity artificially. Quality's real grains provide naturally when left intact. Country Kitchen shows how easy it is for marketing to overshadow substance. The label promises strength, but the recipe delivers something far more ordinary. A loaf comfortable to eat, but not one that supports long-term wellness. Number 7. Great Value. Great Value is designed to appeal to budget-conscious families, and for that reason alone, many shoppers overlook its deeper issues. But affordability shouldn't mean accepting lower standards of safety. Recently, Great Value bread was recalled after customers found rubber bands and pieces of plastic baked directly into the loaves. These weren't minor defects. They led to cuts, chipped teeth, and painful surprises no one expects from something as basic as bread. The investigation that followed revealed worn conveyor belts and packaging materials breaking down during production. It's a reminder that when margins are tight, maintenance is often the first corner cut. Nutritionally, the bread also struggles. It relies on cheap refined flour, stabilizers, and fillers that offer little fiber and almost no meaningful nutrition. Great Value bread illustrates a broader point about low-cost food. Price can sometimes hide the true cost: your health, your trust, your sense of safety. Families deserve affordable options, but they also deserve products made with care. Bread should never involve the risk of injury, yet this recall showed how quickly quality can slip when oversight weakens. Number 8. King's Hawaiian. King's Hawaiian is beloved for its softness and unmistakable sweetness, a flavor that feels festive, nostalgic, almost celebratory. But that sweetness comes with the nutritional trade-off most people don't notice. Each small roll packs around 5 grams of sugar, nearly all of it added, along with enriched flour and fats that create its signature texture. It makes for a wonderful treat, but a problematic everyday bread. When nutritionists compare brands like King's Hawaiian to traditional white bread, the concern becomes clear. The sugar levels move it closer to dessert territory. And when something sweet is packaged as a staple, it becomes easy to consume far more sugar than intended, especially for children or those managing weight and blood sugar. King's Hawaiian isn't a villain. It's simply a bread that plays a different role than people assume. Enjoyed occasionally, it's delightful. But marketed as a daily loaf, it can mislead families into normalizing sugar intake that quietly adds up. It's a reminder to distinguish between celebration food and everyday nourishment. Number 9. Nature's Harvest. Nature's Harvest positioned itself as a cleaner whole grain option, and for a while, shoppers trusted that promise. But in 2024, a major problem surfaced when the company removed certain preservatives without adjusting its production and sanitation processes. Loaves began developing mold within 2 days of purchase, faster than anyone expected from a national brand. Eventually, thousands of packages had to be recalled across 16 states. Mold itself isn't always dangerous, but some strains can produce mycotoxins, and the unpredictability is what concerns experts most. A bread marketed as wholesome should never carry that level of uncertainty. It revealed a deeper issue. The company tried to chase the clean label trend without fully understanding what it requires: tighter sanitation, faster distribution, and more precise handling. This incident reminds us that removing preservatives isn't enough to make a product healthier. True clean food requires a clean system. When the process falls short, the food becomes vulnerable, and so do the people who rely on it. Nature's Harvest became a case study in how good intentions can unravel without strong quality control behind them. Number 10. Bimbo Large White Bread. Bimbo is one of the largest bread manufacturers in the country, a name so widespread that many people buy it without a second thought. But size doesn't guarantee quality. Their large white bread is built on refined flour and a list of additives designed to keep the loaf soft long after it should have gone stale. Its nutrition profile shows almost no fiber, little meaningful protein, and more sodium than most people expect from a daily staple. But the real concern goes deeper than the nutrition label. In 2023, Bimbo faced a recall involving metal fragments, tiny broken pieces from a conveyor belt that found their way into multiple bread lines, including Bimbo, Nature's Harvest, and even Sara Lee products. Only one injury was officially reported, but the incident exposed a vulnerable system: massive production, aging machinery, and quality control that lagged behind volume. Bimbo's bread isn't just nutritionally weak, it stands as a reminder that even the biggest brands can overlook essential safeguards. When a loaf's softness matters more to a company than its safety or substance, it's worth pausing before placing it in your cart. Number 11. Martin's Potato Bread. Martin's potato bread is deeply loved for its pillowy softness and familiar flavor, but the comfort it provides can overshadow the way it's actually made. The name suggests wholesome potatoes, yet the product relies on rehydrated potato flour rather than real potatoes, reducing the nutritional potential many shoppers assume they're getting. Each slice carries added sugar and several preservatives used to maintain its signature texture. The sodium level is moderate, which might appear reassuring at first glance. But the real issue is the overall balance: refined flour, sweeteners, and structural additives that leave little room for natural fiber or whole grains. For people who rely on potato bread as an alternative to standard white bread, this can be misleading. Martin's has also faced controversy unrelated to nutrition, public backlash tied to political sponsorships, which further complicated its image. But even setting that aside, the bread simply doesn't deliver the nourishment its name implies. Martin's is a reminder that taste and tradition aren't enough. When a product feels comforting but lacks the depth to support long-term health, it becomes important to look past the softness and into the ingredients themselves. Number 12. Home Pride Buttertop Wheat. Home Pride's Buttertop Wheat bread presents itself as the best of both worlds: soft, buttery, and wheat-based, with the visual appeal of a loaf that seems wholesome. But the appearance is misleading. The first ingredient is enriched wheat flour, not whole wheat. which means the bread has been stripped of natural nutrients and then artificially fortified to compensate. The presence of high fructose corn syrup adds another layer of concern, especially for families trying to reduce added sugars. The calorie and sodium numbers sound modest until you consider how the bread is actually used. 2 slices for a sandwich instantly double the values. Add the preservatives, emulsifiers, and artificial additives woven into the recipe, and the loaf becomes far removed from the fresh grain-based product the packaging implies. Bread doesn't need sweeteners or chemical stabilizers to be nourishing, yet Home Pride uses both to maintain softness and extend shelf life. It's a quiet example of how wheat labeling can mask a product that functions more like a refined white bread with a darker color. Home Pride asks for trust through its branding, but the ingredient list tells a more complicated truth, one worth reading closely before buying. Number 13, Sun-Maid Raisin Cinnamon Swirl. Sun-Maid's Raisin Cinnamon Swirl bread feels nostalgic. Sweet, fragrant, and tied to a brand people trust. But the moment you read the nutrition facts, the picture changes. Each slice contains 8 grams of sugar, most of it added, not naturally occurring from raisins. That means a simple 2-slice breakfast carries more sweetness than many snack cakes, but without the fiber or nutrients that might help slow the sugar's impact. The loaf leans heavily on preservatives and flavor enhancers to maintain softness and extend its shelf life. The cinnamon, raisins, and swirl design make it feel wholesome, yet the foundation is still refined flour and stabilizers. For families who think they're choosing a fun but still reasonable bread option, this can be quietly misleading. Experts tend to categorize Sun-Maid's swirl bread as closer to dessert than a daily staple, not because treats are wrong, but because the branding suggests something more nourishing than it truly is. If bread is meant to fuel your morning, this one spikes it instead. Sweetness may be comforting, but long-term health depends on recognizing when a loaf is built for taste over nourishment. Number 14. Udi's Gluten-Free Cinnamon Raisin. Udi's is a respected name in gluten-free products, often trusted by people who have limited choices. But even within that category, not all gluten-free breads are created equal. Their cinnamon raisin variety carries 7 grams of sugar, numbers that rival or exceed conventional wheat-based breads. That combination, a sweet profile paired with high salt, makes this loaf surprisingly intensive for something marketed as a healthier alternative. Gluten-free baking requires structure, and without gluten, companies often rely on added starches, gums, oils, and fillers. In Udi's case, that means a long ingredient list designed to hold the bread together, rather than deliver genuine nutrition. The result is a slice that is dense in calories but light in fiber, leaving very little that actually supports digestion or prolonged energy. For people who truly need gluten-free products, this can feel discouraging. A label promising safety doesn't always promise quality. Udi's reminds us that gluten-free isn't automatically synonymous with healthier. It's only one piece of the puzzle. Choosing wisely requires looking past the dietary category and into the balance of sugar, salt, and whole ingredients that make the bread genuinely nourishing. Number 15, Panera Bread. Panera has built its reputation on warm bakery cases, fresh ingredients, and a wholesome image. That's why many shoppers assume their packaged everything sliced bread carries the same integrity, but the packaged version tells a different story. The base of the loaf is refined flour, not whole grain, meaning much of the natural nutrition has already been stripped away. The seasoning blend, sesame, poppy seeds, onion, garlic, adds flavor but can't compensate for what's missing underneath. To recreate the softness and aroma of a bakery loaf that sits on shelves for weeks, the bread relies on additives and preservatives, undermining the clean food identity Panera is known for. The contrast between perception and reality is what makes this bread especially important to evaluate. People choose Panera because they believe they're making a healthy choice, not because they expect industrial ingredients hidden behind artisan branding. Looking closely, Panera's packaged bread reminds us that reputation can be comforting, but truth lives on the ingredient label, not the name on the bag. Don't worry, and now it's time to look at the healthy options. After exposing the breads packed with additives, excess sugar, and empty calories, we shift toward the brands that actually nourish you. These next 5 stand out for their clean ingredient lists, real whole grains, sprouted grains, and consistent approval from nutrition experts. Let's move from what to avoid to what's truly worth bringing home. Number 1. Ezekiel 4:9. Sprouted grain bread. Ezekiel 4.9 is one of the rare breads that truly earns the word wholesome. Instead of refined flour, it's built entirely from sprouted grains and legumes: wheat, barley, millet, lentils, soybeans, and spelt. Sprouting transforms these ingredients, making them easier to digest, richer in protein, and naturally higher in fiber. 2 slices deliver up to 12 grams of fiber, a number most packaged breads don't come close to. What sets Ezekiel apart isn't just what it includes, it's what it leaves out. No added sugar, no preservatives, no artificial flavors or stabilizers. Because it doesn't rely on chemical shortcuts, it requires refrigeration, a small reminder that real food behaves like real food. Nutritionists consistently rank Ezekiel as a top-tier bread for stabilizing blood sugar, supporting digestion, and increasing satiety. People who switch to sprouted grain bread often describe the same feeling: fewer cravings, longer-lasting fullness, and clearer energy throughout the day. Ezekiel doesn't try to mimic softness or sweetness. It simply offers what bread was meant to be: nourishing, clean, and grounded. In a world full of shortcuts, it stands quietly as proof that simplicity still works. Number 2. Dave's Killer Bread, organic whole grains. Dave's Killer Bread has become a go-to option for those who want something substantial. Bread that actually feels alive with seeds, fiber, and texture. The signature varieties, like 21 whole grains and seeds or power seed, combine flax, pumpkin seeds, oats, quinoa, and sorghum, creating slices that are dense with nutrition rather than air. 2 slices offer around 10 grams of fiber and a respectable amount of protein, giving this bread a satisfying depth many people immediately notice. What strengthens Dave's credibility is its restraint. Most varieties contain only 1 to 2 grams of added sugar and exclude preservatives or high fructose corn syrup. It's built to nourish, not to last indefinitely on a shelf. Nutritionists consistently praise Dave's for its balance of complex carbs, healthy fats, and whole grains. Even those watching blood sugar find it more forgiving because the fiber slows digestion naturally. Consumers also appreciate the flavor: nutty, rich, and pleasantly chewy. A meaningful part of the brand's story is its commitment to second chances, employing individuals rebuilding their lives after incarceration. That mission gives the product a sense of integrity that goes beyond nutrition. In both substance and spirit, Dave's Killer Bread earns its place among the best. Number 3. Silver Hills Sprouted Grain Bread. Silver Hills has built its entire identity on sprouted grains, and the result is a line of breads that feel genuinely nourishing. Varieties like Big 16 use a mix of sprouted wheat, oats, millet, barley, quinoa, sunflower seeds, and more, creating slices that offer 6 grams of protein and 8 grams of fiber per serving. Numbers you rarely see in standard supermarket bread. Sprouting unlocks nutrients that are harder to access in traditional grains, making the bread easier on digestion and naturally richer in vitamins and minerals. Silver Hills keeps the formula clean: no animal products, no artificial preservatives, and almost no added sugar. Because of this, their loaves need refrigeration. Again, a sign that the food is real, not chemically suspended. Experts often place Silver Hills on the same tier as Ezekiel and Dave's Killer Bread for its nutrient density and clean ingredient list. Consumers describe it as grounding, hearty, earthy, and satisfying in a way that feels like genuine fuel rather than filler. Silver Hills stands out because it doesn't try to imitate white bread. It embraces grains the way they were meant to be eaten: whole, sprouted, and thoughtfully prepared. Number 4. Nature's Own 100%. Whole wheat has become a quiet staple in households that want something trustworthy without paying premium prices. Its strength is simplicity. Whole wheat flour is the first ingredient, no artificial preservatives, no artificial colors, and no high fructose corn syrup. Each slice has only 60 calories, 1 gram of added sugar, and a gentle amount of fiber, enough to support everyday eating without overwhelming the palate. What makes this bread stand out is its balance. It isn't trying to mimic artisanal loaves or sprouted grain nutrition powerhouses. Instead, it delivers honest whole grain bread at a price that families can maintain week after week. For parents watching both budget and health, this reliability matters. Nutritionists consistently list Nature's Own as a best value choice because it aligns with essential guidelines. Whole grains first, low sugar, manageable sodium, and familiar ingredients. The loaf is soft without relying on chemical shortcuts, and the flavor is mild enough to suit everything from school lunches to daily toast. In a market crowded with disguises, Nature's Own offers something refreshing, a loaf that feels both accessible and genuinely aligned with whole food eating. Number 5. Oro wheat, whole grain and seeds. Arnold, sold as Brownberry in the Midwest and Oro wheat in the West, has earned its place among the top bread brands by consistently prioritizing whole grains, fiber, and meaningful texture. Their standout varieties, such as 22 Grains and Seeds Organic or Grains Almighty, deliver 7 to 8 grams of fiber per 2 slices, along with plant-based fats and minerals from flaxseed, sunflower seeds, oats, and quinoa. Where many supermarket breads use whole grains as decoration, Arnold uses them as the foundation. Whole wheat flour is always the first ingredient, followed by a blend of seeds that give the bread substance, real chew, real aroma, real staying power. The added sugars remain low, typically 2 to 3 grams per slice, and artificial preservatives are notably absent. Experts regularly highlight Arnold for its steady quality across regions, making it a dependable option no matter where you shop. Consumers often describe the bread as satisfying, not because it's heavy, but because it feels grounded, nutrient-dense, flavorful, and genuinely filling. With roots tracing back to the 1940s, the brand has refined its formulas over generations, while staying committed to whole grains. In a landscape where packaging often overpromises, Arnold quietly delivers exactly what it claims: bread that nourishes.